This is your government video on the legislative branch's checks on the executive branch. All of the branches of government have checks and balances embedded into the Constitution. Some of these are in the Constitution and other ones are passed by federal law, or they're just historical traditions that have gone on. The legislative branch, one of their main checks and balances that is written into the Constitution is the right of impeachment. Impeachment is a way that you can remove somebody from office who was democratically elected to office. The Constitution outlines how you would do impeachment, and it's actually a two-step process. So step number one is what we call the impeachment, and it can be done by the House of Representatives. The House of Representatives opens up an investigation, and they collect all of the evidence. And then it would take a majority vote of the House of Representatives to issue an impeachment to a president. So this happened during Donald Trump's term in office, also President Clinton's term in office as well. An impeachment does not mean you're guilty. An impeachment just means you've been indicted. An indictment is a statement of charges, that they've collected enough evidence and they believe that it meets a certain level that you could go to trial. If a majority of House members approve an impeachment, then it goes over to the Senate. And that's the second part. The Senate has the right to hold an actual trial to determine the guilt or innocence of the president who has been impeached. Once the trial is over, it would take a 2/3 vote of all senators to remove the president from office. A 2/3 vote is a really high bar. It typically means that you would have to have both Republican and Democratic support to do this. In both the Clinton and Trump impeachments, the Senate did not even hold a trial to determine guilt or innocence. So the impeachments in both cases were done strictly by the opposing party in the House of Representatives. The Constitution also says you can only impeach a president for 3 things: treason, bribery, or what's referred to as high crimes and misdemeanors. Now, I know that language is a little bit vague, but the Constitution wanted it to be vague. High crimes and misdemeanors we generally think of as felonies, something really important. Not abiding by the oath of office you took as a president, or breaking laws at which the president is in charge of enforcing laws. Another check that Congress has on the president is the ability to override a presidential veto. House and the Senate can, with a 2/3 vote of both chambers, override a president's veto on a law. In that case, it would become law without the president's signature. The major check that Congress will always have on the president is the budget, because Congress in the Constitution handles all of the money. Congress gets to set the tax level, they get to collect our taxes, and they get to decide how it's spent. And I know this is not a very exciting check and balance, but this is the big one. Congress controls the power of the purse. This is also referred to in economics as fiscal policy. Congress gets to decide our spending levels and where we're going to spend the money. And this is the big battle between the president and Congress every single year, because Congress cannot spend money unless they've passed a budget. And just like a bill that has to be passed, it must be passed by a majority of the House and a majority of the Senate, and it has to go to the president for a signature, assuming there was not a 2/3 vote of both chambers. This can also change wildly as the majority party in the House and Senate or the president's political affiliation change from one person to another. Liberal Democratic presidents might want to put lots of money into the budget for certain departments of the government and programs, and conservative Republican presidents have different priorities. The Constitution also sets up a set of checks that the Senate has on the president. These are particular checks in which the House of Representatives has no control. Senators are in charge of ratifying treaties. Treaties are agreements, very public agreements, that the president has negotiated for our country with a foreign head of state. Once the president negotiates the treaty, it is not legal from the U.S.'s point of view. until you get a 2/3 vote of senators. Again, a 2/3 vote is a supermajority and is very difficult to reach, so you typically have to have bipartisan support. The Senate also gets to approve any appointments that the president makes to the judicial branch. The president, of course, gets to appoint Supreme Court justices, but also all federal judges. This includes federal trial court judges, which we call district courts, and federal appeals courts. All of these federal judges serve for life terms, and they do not get their job until they have also been confirmed by the Senate. And it takes a majority vote today to confirm all of the president's judicial appointments. The Senate also gets to confirm any cabinet appointments that the president makes. The president is the head of the federal bureaucracy, so all of the various departments of the government who work beneath him, all of the heads of those departments, which are typically called secretaries, have to be appointed by the president and then confirmed by the Senate. The president also gets a number of other appointments to upper-level management, the heads of things like the CIA and the FBI, national security advisors, and economic council. All of those would have to be confirmed by a majority vote of the senators.